Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is making fun of Cinemasins. If you know the Birdman, this is very familiar territory, so it will be very close to his series, but I want to be doing my own original contribution as well. So, whereas he mostly makes fun of Jeremy and he almost always loses, I'm going to be more fair. I'm going to go back and forth where he gets it right and where he gets it wrong. Let us begin with the not at all divisive Last Jedi.
Reading.
Skipping the reading of a Star Wars crawl is like...
Skipping the crawl. Well, Birdman made fun of this, but, I don't know. I would be generous. This is more of a question mark, right? I mean, read the crawl, don't read the crawl. But then don't complain about issues that the crawl might have addressed, and then you're like, oh, I don't get this. How did this happen in the Lost Jedi worst film of all times?
Rabble.
What? Why would you even do that?
There's no gravity in space. Hold on. I know I've screwed this up before, so let's try this again. There is no...
Let me back up, because apparently Jeremy in another video did say something profoundly stupid like, there is no gravity in space. There is gravity in space. Jeremy didn't know that, and even though Jeremy does mostly comedy, you should know these things. If you don't know these things, you're gonna sound like an idiot. Really embarrassed. I said, alright, let me get this right this time. Gravity, yes, but not enough.
I know I've screwed this up before, so let's try this again. There is no force that would cause these bombs to simply fall straight down onto the dreadnought.
Well, no, we do see Paige falling, so the bombs falling isn't a big issue in the ship. Now, I guess we just presume that they have magnets or some kind of propulsion, and that's why they keep going, but yeah, I mean, you could keep going with the precise mechanism of how the bombs work. If you go to the outside sources, yeah, they give you more details. This might be an issue, but it does seem like we're really trying to find issues instead of actually being honest in terms of our movie criticism.
Galaxy far, far away, questioning the astrophysics of a fantasy film, do you? You must unlearn what...
Well, that was some nice voice work from the Birdman. I don't think it was particularly relevant. I mean, it's funny. He does bring this up, though, that we shouldn't be questioning certain things in fantasy films. I'm a little bit more generous. I think certain things can be questioned. Again, there should be a limit. It's fiction. It is not a documentary.
This moment completely undermines the ending of The Force Awakens, and does so for a throwaway joke. Yes, Luke has given up on the Force at this point, but you don't need this gag to sell it. He can hand it back to her solemnly in a...
You know, people keep saying this a lot, that The Last Jedi had the subversion, even though Jeremy provides no evidence for this. Also, does he ever really examine these scenes in any real detail? Yes, it's being played for comedy, but you could reflect on the sheer tragedy. I mean, Luke lost a lot with the saber and just being a Jedi, so maybe it's not just comedy.
Angst over here!
This is Star Wars, dude. Nobody cares about family in this series. Besides, Luke is still dealing with this shit.
Well, I guess you don't know everything about women yet.
To be honest, I was very confused by what the Birdman was saying and what Jeremy was saying because, okay, families should matter. I was a little confused. Okay, so let's back up 2 seconds. I guess the joke is, if families mattered, Leia would not kiss Luke because that would be incest, and that's wrong, right? It should be wrong. But then Lucas, in all his genius, decided to have a pointless plot twist and is like, oh, you're my sister, even though we kissed in the last film. I guess the Birdman joke is, hey man, that was his sister he was in love with and Han is jealous? I don't know. Yeah, the whole thing is pretty stupid and weird. A lot of plot issues that Lucas unleashed by having the really bizarre sister twist.
Flaws, but this moment was actually perfect setup for this film. The lightsaber being tossed is the film saying, you see what Luke just did with this major plot device from episode 7? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Birdman basically has it right. It's Rian saying, don't have certain expectations for this film. Not subverting expectations, but don't force certain expectations into the film that might not be there, and therefore you might get upset for no reason.
Can we jump to light speed?
We have enough fuel resources for just one jump.
Fuel? Is this the first mention of the concept of fuel in Star Wars? I sure don't remember Han in the original trilogy ever having to worry about fuel. Certainly.
I cannot believe that he actually thinks that fuel was introduced in The Last Jedi. Fuel has been a thing for a very, very long time. Now, I don't want to just repeat the Birdman, but he got a lot of instances even I didn't remember. Now, I do recall very clearly in Attack of the Clones they talk about fuel.
Attack of the Clones.
Aim right above the fuel cells.
So yes, fuel has been a thing in other plot lines. I guess you want to say it was never as central, but no, fuel has been there. It's been in the first film.
Is shown in A New Hope.
And I will give the Birdman a lot of points because even I forgot this, that it's even in Revenge of the Sith.
Again in Revenge of the Sith.
With your kind permission, I should like some fuel.
And
Although, to be fair, that's kind of a spy mission Obi is on, so was he really talking about fuel? It may have just been a joke or a lie. But fuel has been a thing in the Star Wars universe for quite some time, so I'm not sure what Jeremy was saying. Does he honestly think fuel was not a thing? Was that a joke? It just seems he wasn't really studying the films carefully. But no, fuel has been an issue in the Star Wars universe. Maybe not as central to the plot, although you can argue in The Phantom Menace it was a big issue, although there it's them being stranded on Tatooine, right? No, fuel has been a thing in the Star Wars universe, so I'm not quite sure what he meant by that.
Not for jumps to light speed. And Rey just took the Falcon supposedly halfway around the universe looking for Luke. But this ship only has enough fuel for one more jump? Jesus.
I'm also not clear why he's bringing in the Millennium Falcon. I mean, the issue with the Falcon is it has Rey and Chewbacca. Leia's ship has a massive crew. Does he not know how fuel works? If you have a lot of people on a plane, you have to use a lot more fuel. That's just basic physics. If you have almost nobody on a ship, you're going to require very little fuel. So presumably the Millennium Falcon, with a very small crew of 2 people, is not the same as a large ship with a massive crew. The needs of the 2 ships are going to be very different.
This explosion doesn't kill Leia, nor does getting sucked out into space.
Well, this was all kinds of confusing. So Jeremy is saying when Leia died. I don't think Leia died. He's presuming she died, then resurrected herself. But it's like, oh, she's invincible. But did she die in the first place? You didn't establish that.
If you want to introduce new force powers, but a little explanation goes a long way. Especially when said new power is literal space resurrection. Isn't she unkillable now? Where's the danger? Or does she only have enough fuel for one space resurrection?
Okay.
Well, what are you talking about the new force power? There's no new force power. You're assuming a new force power. What is the new force power? She can breathe in space? No, she can't breathe in space. That's why she's trying to get to the ship. And why are you saying fuel again? This person has a really weird fuel obsession, so that was really weird.
Especially when said new power is literal space resurrection. Isn't she unkillable now? Where's the danger? Or does she only have enough fuel for one space resurrection?
Okay, this takes some explaining, as even huge fans of this film went apeshit over this scene. Firstly, regular humans can survive in a vacuum, for small amounts of time, of course, but it is possible.
I'll just state for the record, I did not go crazy over this scene. I took for granted, yeah, Leia's a very powerful force user. She needed to get to the ship. She used a lot of force powers to get to the ship, and then she collapsed.
You have a few minutes before the pressure differential becomes lethal, so the idea of instantaneous death in space is actually not true. Couple this with the fact that Leia is a user of the Force, and
again, I do my own research, but yeah, the Birdman has a big point that Anakin survived being burned, so could someone survive in space? If you look at other Star Wars media, this has happened, so it's not a really big issue.
if Maul can survive being cut in half, and Vader survives this,
Darth Maul survived being cut in half. So after that, yeah, your body's pretty resistant if you have force powers. Not a big deal with Leia in space, unless you're an idiot, which a lot of people on YouTube are, so there we go. So of the 10 major issues, Jeremy raised one issue that's legitimate. Yeah, I mean, Luke being a little distracted when Rey gave the bad news was a little weird in the film. Otherwise, he's 90% wrong, and the Birdman was mostly pretty good in his commentary. So, yeah, not looking good for Jeremy so far.